Kindness often works in mysterious ways. Sometimes it's not about grand gestures, but the silent acts that leave a lasting impact. Let me share a story about a driver, his little girl, and an unexpected act of compassion. At the end of a long, tiring month, a man named Asim stood at the gate of the house where he worked as a driver. Beside him was his young daughter, Alina, holding his hand tightly. Asim had spent the entire month working diligently, polishing the car daily, running errands and doing everything he could to provide for his little family. Yet he knew his efforts were never enough in the eyes of his employer. That evening, with the weight of worry pressing on his shoulders, Asim approached the door, hoping to collect his hard-earned salary. For Alina, the visit was a rare chance to see where her father worked. But for Asim, it was a moment filled with apprehension. Inside the grand house, the employer sat comfortably on a plush sofa. Hearing the doorbell, he glanced up briefly and then gestured toward his wife. "Go handle it," he said dismissively. "Give him less this time. He's careless with the car. It's never as spotless as it should be." His wife nodded and made her way to the door, her expression firm. She knew her husband's expectations well, but her heart told her something different. Asim was a hardworking man, and the presence of his little daughter tugged at her compassion. When the door opened, Asim stood humbly with his head slightly bowed, his daughter peeking out from behind him. The employer's wife looked at them, her stern expression hiding the thoughts racing through her mind. In a loud and commanding voice, she criticized Asim's work, claiming it was not up to standard and justifying a reduced payment. The tone was harsh, and Alina's innocent eyes filled with confusion. She clung to her father's arm, sensing his discomfort. But in the midst of her sharp words, the employer's wife subtly slipped an envelope into Asim's hands. Inside was more money than expected, a silent acknowledgement of his dedication and struggles. Without saying a word, she hoped the gesture would help him and his daughter through their hardships. As she closed the door, a slight sigh escaped her lips. Turning around, she froze. Her husband stood just a few steps away, having overheard the entire scene. He looked at her with disapproval. Was all that shouting necessary? He came with his daughter. A little kindness wouldn't hurt. She smiled softly, her expression unreadable. Deep down, she knew he wouldn't understand the balance she had tried to maintain. In her mind, actions spoke louder than words, and her quiet generosity was enough. Outside, Asim and Alina walked home through the dimly lit streets. The envelope clutched in his hand was heavier than he had expected. Asim's heart swelled with gratitude, though he would never know the silent kindness hidden behind the stern words. For little Alina, her father's relieved smile was all that mattered. She skipped beside him, her small hand swinging in his. That night, Asim felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that kindness could exist even in the most unexpected forms. Life often teaches us that kindness doesn't always come with smiles or grand gestures. Sometimes, it's the unspoken actions, the quiet moments, that carry the greatest weight.